Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Just close them. And I want you to think about the person you were 5 years ago. Think about what they wanted. Think about what they dreamed about at night when nobody was watching. Think about the fire that used to burn in their chest when they imagined what their life could become. Now, open your eyes and ask yourself honestly, ruthlessly, painfully honestly, are you that person? Are you even close or somewhere along the way? Did you let someone kill that dream? Did life beat you down so many times that you stopped getting back up? Did you get so comfortable in your pain that you started calling it peace? Because I'm going to tell you something today that nobody in your life has had the courage to say to your face. There is a version of you walking around right now that is weak, that is small, that is afraid, that makes excuses before the alarm even goes off, that quits before it even starts, that says someday instead of today, I'll try instead of I will, I can't instead of watch me. And that version of you, that weak, excuse-making, dream-killing, comfort-seeking version of you, has to die today, right now, in this room. And I'm here to help you bury it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what you feel in your chest right now. What matters is whether the truth I'm about to speak lands somewhere deep inside you and ignites something that's been sleeping for far too long. So let's go. All the way. No holding back. No watering back. No watering it down. No sugarcoating the medicine. Let's talk about the war that's happening inside you. Every single person in this room, every single person watching this, wherever you are in the world, is fighting a war. Not with their boss, not with their family, not with the economy or the system or the circumstances they were born into. The war is inside you, or it is between who you are right now and who you are capable of becoming. And most people, and I mean most people, the vast majority of human beings walking this earth, they lose that war. Not because the enemy is too strong, but because they don't even show up to fight. They wave the white flag before the battle begins. They negotiate with weakness instead of destroying it. I need you to understand something fundamental about human nature before we go any further. You were not born weak. Nobody is born weak. You were born screaming. You were born fighting for breath, fighting for warmth, fighting for warmth, fighting for survival. The very first thing you did on this earth was fight. You came into this world with clenched fists and fire in your lungs. So when did you stop fighting? When did you decide that comfort was more important than conquest? When did you decide that the opinion of someone who doesn't even believe in themselves was more important than your own vision? When did you decide that the life everyone else was living was good enough for you? I'll tell you when. I'll tell you when. It was the first time you tried and failed and someone laughed. It was the first time you raised your hand and got it wrong and the whole class stared. It was the first time you told someone your dream and they looked at you like you were crazy. It was the first time life punched you in the face and you weren't prepared for how much it hurt. And from that moment, something shifted. Something subtle and sinister crept into your mind. A voice, a small, quiet, persistent voice that started whispering things to you. You're not good enough. People like you don't make it. Who do you think you are? Play it safe. Stay small. Don't try. Don't try. And you listened not once, not twice. You listened thousands of times until that voice wasn't a whisper anymore. Until it became the loudest voice in your head. Until you started calling it your own thoughts. That voice is not you. That voice is the weak version of you. And it has been living rent-free in your mind for years, maybe decades, eating your dreams, stealing your time, robbing you of the life you are meant to live. ... And today we are serving it an eviction notice. Let me tell you about a man I know. I'm going to call him Marcus because the details of his story belong to him. But the lesson belongs to all of us. Marcus grew up in a small town. Not the kind of small town that feels cozy and charming. The kind that feels like a ceiling. The kind where people don't dream big because big dreams aren't part of the culture. Where the most successful person on the street is someone who kept their job for 30 years and paid off their mortgage. Marcus's father worked in a factory. His grandfather worked in a factory. His uncles worked in a factory. And from the time Marcus was old enough to understand words, the unspoken message in his home was this. That's what men like us do. We work. We survive. We don't reach for things that aren't meant for us. But Marcus had something burning inside him. He wanted to be a writer. He wanted to tell stories. He used to stay up until 2 in the morning filling notebooks with words, with worlds, with worlds, with characters that lived and breathed inside his imagination. Writing was the only place he felt fully alive. And when he was 17, he showed his father one of his stories. His father read the first page, put it down, and said, "And I want you to hear these words because they are words that somebody in this room has heard in some form or another." He said, "Boy, this is nice. Boy, this is nice. But nice doesn't pay the bills. Nice doesn't feed a family. You need to get your head out of the clouds and get ready for the real world." Marcus closed that notebook, and he didn't open another one for 15 years. 15 years. He got a job. He worked hard. He was responsible. He did everything right by every standard society had given him. And every single day, there was a part of him that was dying, not slowly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a fire that nobody is feeding, just slowly going out. By the time he was 32, Marcus was married, had 2 kids, had a decent apartment and a steady paycheck, and he was one of the most miserable human beings you could ever meet. Not the loud kind of miserable, the quiet kind, the kind that smiles at the right moments and nods and says, "Fine," when people ask how he's doing, and then goes home and stares at the ceiling, wondering where his life went. One night, his daughter, she was 8 years old, came into the kitchen while he was doing dishes and she said, "Daddy, what did you want to be when you were little?" And Marcus opened his mouth to answer, and nothing came out. He stood there at that kitchen sink, water running over his hands, and he couldn't answer his 8-year-old daughter's innocent question because the honest answer was so painful he couldn't speak it out loud. He cried that night, not in front of his daughter, not in front of his wife. He went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, sat on the floor, and he wept. The kind of weeping that comes from somewhere so deep, it doesn't even feel like crying. It feels like something breaking open. And in that moment, Marcus made a decision. He didn't make a plan. He didn't have a strategy. He didn't know how it was going to work. He just made a decision. I am not dying with this inside me. He bought a notebook the next day, a simple spiral notebook, and he started writing again. At 5 in the morning before work, on his lunch break, on weekends while his kids were at activities. He wrote with the desperation of someone who had been underwater for 15 years and finally found the surface. 3 years later, he published his first book. It didn't sell 1 million copies. He didn't become famous overnight, but it sold enough. It connected with enough people. He got enough letters from strangers saying, "This story changed something in me," that he knew. He knew with everything in him that he had made the right choice. So today, Marcus writes full-time. He's published 4 books. He makes less money than he did at his old job. And he's one of the happiest human beings I have ever met in my life. But here's what I want you to understand about Marcus's story. The miracle wasn't the books. The miracle wasn't the books. The miracle was the decision. The miracle was the moment he looked at the weak version of himself. The version that had accepted a smaller life, that had traded his dream for other people's expectations. And he said, "You don't get to run my life anymore." That was the moment everything changed. And I'm asking you, I'm begging you to find that moment for yourself. Today, not someday. Today. Let me ask you something. What is the story you tell yourself about why you haven't started yet? Because everybody has one. Everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care how successful you look on the outside. Everybody is carrying a story, a reason, a justification, an explanation for why they're not yet where they want to be. And the most common ones sound something like this. I'll start when the timing is right. When is the timing ever going to be right? When your kids are older? When you have more money? When you have more time? When the economy improves? When you feel more confident? When you've done more research? Or when you've taken one more course? Or let me tell you something about perfect timing. Perfect timing is a lie. It is the most sophisticated lie the weak version of you tells because it sounds so reasonable. It sounds responsible. It sounds mature. I'm not being lazy. I'm being strategic. I'm waiting for the right moment. But what you're really doing is procrastinating with a college degree. The right time to start was yesterday. The second best time is right now. And every single day you wait, the gap between where you are and where you want to be gets wider, not narrower. But I don't have the resources. You have the internet. You have access to more free knowledge right now in your pocket than the greatest scholars in history had in their entire lifetimes. You have YouTube and libraries and podcasts and books and communities and mentors willing to share their wisdom. The resources have never been more available than they are right now. The question is not whether the resources exist. The question is whether you are willing to use them. But I'm not talented enough. Talent, let me tell you what talent is. Talent is the story we tell about people after they've succeeded. Nobody looks at someone who's struggling and talks about their talent. We only see the talent after the work has already been done, after the thousands of hours of practice, after the failures nobody witnessed, after the sleepless nights and the self-doubt, and the moments of wanting to quit. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Read that again. That again, the greatest basketball player who has from his high school team. Do you think he had no talent? Or do you think that what you call talent is really just what happens when someone refuses to quit? Thought Walt Disney was fired from his first newspaper job because, and I quote, he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Oprah Winfrey was told early in her career that she was unfit for television. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times. Einstein didn't speak until he was 4 years old. His teachers told his parents he was slow and would never amount to much. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before he became President of the United States. Every single person you admire, every single person whose life you look at and feel a pang of envy or inspiration, every one of them has a story of failure and rejection and doubt that they never put in the highlight reel. The difference between them and the people who never made it is not talent. The difference is that they killed the weak version of themselves. They looked at the voice that said, quit, and they said no. They looked at the circumstances that said, it's impossible, and they said, watch me. They looked at the odds and decided that statistics don't apply to people who are fully committed. Now I want to talk about something that nobody likes to talk about in these kinds of speeches because it's uncomfortable. Because it requires a level of honesty that most people aren't willing to apply to themselves. I want to talk about your habits, not the big dramatic things, not the major life events, the tiny daily, seemingly insignificant habits that are quietly constructing either a life you love or a life you resent. The alarm goes off at 6 in the morning. Do you do? Be honest. Not what you wish you did. Not what you did that 1 week in January when you were feeling motivated. What do you actually consistently do? If the first thing you do if you wake up is hit snooze, I want you to understand what that means. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying you're lazy. I'm saying that in that one moment, in that half-conscious, barely awake, 3-second window, the weak version of you wins. And if the weak version of you wins first thing in the morning, it sets a tone. It says, today I choose comfort over commitment. And that choice echoes through the whole day. Not because of the 12 minutes of extra sleep, but because of what surrendering to weakness in the morning does to your psychology. The body follows the mind, and the mind follows the patterns you feed it. Now let's talk about the phone. How much time do you spend every day on your phone scrolling through other people's curated highlight reels, watching strangers live the life you say you want, consuming content that makes you feel both entertained and somehow smaller at the same time? 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 or free? Let me do some math with you. If you spend 3 hours a day on your phone, consuming, scrolling, watching, reacting, that is 21 hours a week. That is over 1,000 hours a year. That is 45 full days. Every single year, 45 days. What could you build in 45 days? What could you learn? What could you create? What could you become? Now, I'm not telling you to throw your phone in the ocean. I'm not anti-technology. The phone is a tool. Like any tool, it depends on who's holding it and what they're using it for. But I'm asking you to look honestly at how you're spending your time. Because time is the only currency that truly matters. Money lost can be recovered. Opportunities missed can sometimes return. But time spent is gone forever. The weak version of you will spend your time on whatever gives immediate pleasure and zero growth. The person you are trying to become, the strongest, most powerful, most alive version of you, that person is strategic with time. That person asks before every hour, is this building something or is this consuming something? I want to tell you about a different kind of pain now because we've talked about failure. We've talked about habits. But there's a specific kind of pain that is unique to people who are capable of great things but haven't yet stepped into their greatness. It's the pain of potential doubt. It is the ache of knowing deep in your soul, in a place words can barely reach, that you are meant for more than this. That there is a version of your life that is more vibrant, more purposeful, more alive than the one you're currently living. And the cruelest thing about the pain of potential is that it doesn't go away by ignoring it. If you are born with a fire inside you, you cannot extinguish it by pouring water on it. It will keep finding air. It will keep trying to burn. And if you keep smothering it, it doesn't just die. It turns inward. It starts burning you from the inside out. That's what depression often is, at its core, for many people. Not a chemical imbalance alone, not just genetics, but also the slow, grinding suffocation of a life that doesn't match the soul's deepest calling. The pain of a person who knows what they should be doing and keeps choosing not to do it. I'm not trivializing mental illness. Mental illness is real and serious and requires real serious help. But I'm telling you that there is a specific kind of darkness that comes from self-betrayal, from making yourself small, from saying no to yourself so many times that you start to believe the no is the truth. And the cure for that darkness is not more rest. It is not more entertainment. It is not more numbing. The cure is action. The cure is choosing one more time, even after 1,000 defeats, to stand up and try. The cure is killing that weak version of you that has been convincing you that safety is the same as happiness. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah. Sarah was 43 years old when she called me. She had spent her entire adult life doing what was expected of her. Went to the right school, married the right kind of man, had children, built a comfortable life. She volunteered on weekends. She went to church. She was, by every external measure, a success. But she called me at 1 in the morning, and the first thing she said was, I feel like I've been asleep for 20 years. She had always wanted to start a business, a bakery, not because she wanted to be a business mogul, no, because baking was the only time she felt completely herself. When she was in the kitchen, with flour on her hands and the smell of something warm in the oven, she felt present in a way she didn't feel anywhere else. But she had never started, because she was too old, because it was too risky. Because what would people think? A 43-year-old woman leaving a stable life to open a bakery. Because she had responsibilities. Because the timing was never right. I asked her one question. If you don't do this, what is the story you'll be telling yourself at 63? Silence. A long silence. And then she said very quietly that I was too afraid. She opened her bakery 14 months later. It was small. She worked harder than she'd worked in years. There were weeks she wasn't sure it was going to survive. There were mornings she sat in the parking lot before opening and asked herself what she was doing, but she didn't quit. 3 years in, her bakery is thriving. It's become a gathering place in her community. People come not just for the bread, but for the energy. Because when you walk through that door, you feel something. You feel the presence of a person who is fully alive, who is doing exactly what they were meant to do. Sarah told me recently, I wasted 20 years being comfortable. I don't regret the life I built, but I regret waiting. I regret being afraid for so long. And then she said something I will never forget. She said, the bakery didn't change my life. The decision to stop being afraid changed my life. The bakery was just the evidence. Write that down somewhere if you can. The decision comes first. The evidence follows. I want to talk to you about the people in your life because this is where it gets complicated. This is where the journey of becoming your best self gets personal and sometimes painful. When you decide to change, really change, not just think about changing, but actually change, not everyone in your life is going to be happy about it. Some of them are going to say they support you, but their eyes will tell a different story. Some of them are going to make small, subtle comments designed to keep you in the box they've put you in. Comments wrapped in humor. Comments wrapped in concern. You sure you know what you're doing? Isn't that kind of risky? I just don't want to see you get hurt. And I want you to understand something about those people. Most of them are not evil. They are not consciously trying to destroy you. They are doing something that is very, very human. They are protecting themselves. Because when you change, when you grow, when you rise, you become a mirror. And that mirror shows them everything they haven't done. everything they gave up on, every dream they buried, every chance they didn't take. Your growth is their discomfort. Your courage is their shame. Not because you meant it that way, but because that's what happens when someone decides to live fully in a world full of people who have settled for less. Some of them will try to pull you back down, not to hurt you, but because your presence at the top of the mountain is a reminder of their own flat ground. Now listen to me carefully here. I am not telling you to cut people off carelessly. I am not telling you to be ruthless or cold or to blow up your relationships in the name of self-improvement. Relationships are sacred. Connection is sacred. We need each other. But I am telling you that you have to be strategic about whose voice you amplify in your head. If someone in your life consistently makes you feel small, consistently discourages you, consistently plants seeds of doubt in your mind, regardless of how much they say they love you, you have to ask yourself, is this relationship feeding my potential or feeding my fear? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, not in terms of income, in terms of energy, in terms of belief, in terms of what you think is possible. Don't surround yourself with people who are building something, who are growing, who talk about ideas and dreams and possibilities, who challenge you lovingly to be more, who celebrate your wins and tell you the truth when you need to hear it. Distance yourself. Not necessarily cut off, but distance yourself from people who only talk about problems, who see obstacles everywhere, who have given up on their own dreams and want company in that surrender. Because misery doesn't just love company. Misery recruits it.